Don't get scared now.
Okay, so before anyone says it, because I know someone's going to say it, no, I'm not playing this game as a means to be, clickbaity. I honestly think I'm a decade and a half too late to actually pull that off, because this game, I don't think is anywhere near as popular with streamers as it used to be. Now, there is a reason I'm playing this for the stream, because I do feel it is important to the history of horror. So tonight we're playing Amnesia: Dark Descent. This game was released in 2010 and was created by Frictional Games. At the time, as I said in the Dead Space review, in the Dead Space video, uh, horror at the time, but in the late 2000s, wasn't really horror anymore. After Resident Evil 4 came out, and they took the series in a more action-focused direction, the Resident Evil series just abandoned horror in favor of mostly action. There was still a minor horror theme there. It was, again, just theming. And Silent Hill wasn't doing well at the time. The only other really big horror franchise at the time was Dead Space, which I personally feel found a nice balance between horror and action. Being able to be scary while, leaning enough into the action game that it's still a fun game to play. But that did sort of leave a lot of horror fans out to dry. But towards the end of the 2000s came digital distribution, which was a bigger deal for video gaming than I think a lot of people realized at the time. You see, before digital distribution, if you wanted to release your games, you need to have a publisher or deep pockets in order to cover the expensive production cost of manufacturing games, shipping them out, and fighting distributors to actually carry them. So when digital distribution came out, that really cut down on how much money you had to spend in order to get a game into the hands of gamers. So you saw an influx of independent games at the time, which often focused on more neglected genres. So you saw a rise in point and click, platformers, stuff like that in a time when, but it seems like every game that was coming out at the time was a first-person shooter. So you would think that because of this, you would have a bunch of horror games coming out in the vein of Resident Evil, Silent Hill, and all that. But that actually ended up not being the case, and I pretty much blame Amnesia for that. So, like I said, horror games at the time were not horror games. They were action games with a horror theming. So, because of that, independent developers came to the conclusion that the best way to make a horror game would be to, go all in on the horror and remove action entirely. So all of a sudden you had a wave of what would become known as walking simulators, where you can't attack, all you can do is just run away from whatever is chasing you. And that started with Amnesia, at least from my perspective. So the game was, as I said, was made by Frictional Games, who had previously put out the Penumbrum series, which I don't think did very well, and I don't think it's ever done well because I can't even find it on Steam. But with digital distribution, Frictional Game didn't have to convince a publisher to take a chance on this weird horror idea they had. Just going all in on the horror, no action. And initially, it didn't really resonate with gamers, but then all of a sudden, you had YouTube streamers, and Amnesia just came out at the perfect time because that was when, what we're doing right here became popular. So you had people finding this obscure horror game and then just playing it, and people just being entertained by watching their reactions to the game. The most famous among them, I think, is probably PewDiePie. I think that goes without saying. But how should I put this? I don't want to sound pretentious, and I don't want to diss people like PewDiePie or anyone who has made a name for themselves playing this game. They really did play up how scary the game was, because I've never found Amnesia to be terribly frightening. I'm sure there are some people who would find it scary, but I was always kind of able to get through it without really any kind of tension. And that has always made me wonder, would you call Amnesia a good game? Or did it just gain notoriety because of the YouTube streamers? And maybe a little bit of both, I would say. I feel like Amnesia is very overrated, but at the same time, there are some really good things about it, and the sequels are also of mention too. I played the most recent release, Amnesia the Bunker, and that is fantastic. But I also couldn't help but laugh because it sort of backpedaled on a lot of the design choices they made with Amnesia the Dark Descent. But I think I've talked enough, so of course how we're going to be playing this game, it's going to be on PC as games like this were intended. We're going to do a quick sound check. By the way, this video you've been seeing, that's Boulder Punch. So if you're looking for some good horror videos, be sure to check out his channel. I've mentioned it several times in the past, but dude's content is really good. Anyway, let's get a start on Amnesia. With my stupid dyslexia, I read that as fractional. Okay, so typically when you start up Amnesia for the first time, you actually get a series of title cards that is intended to explain how you're supposed to get the most out of the game. Explain that you need to run from enemies, stuff like that. And when I reloaded the game and saw that, I was honestly kind of laughing at that, because it's silly to have that now, because games like Amnesia are just so common now. Now, I'm not saying that the games that followed Amnesia or were imitating it were as good as Amnesia, because as I said, there is something here gameplay-wise, but that's just really silly in the modern day. So we're gonna enter the name. Jagger Newman. No. You know what? Bladeslinger, why not? Okay, so I actually do really love this splash page. For starters, the graphic design on Amnesia is fantastic. It's just the right amount of graphic and fractured design, but just reined in enough to where it's immediately readable. That's really good. But the Dark Descent, I feel like that's a little sloppy right there. The logo itself has this weird angle to it, so there's a lot of negative space there. And if you're looking at it, it's also off-center with the logo too. It's just a little strange. Just kind of feels like they tacked that on at the last minute. And I also like that you have this right here leading into it, because it kind of gives you the sense that, yeah, there's something messed up in there. So we're gonna go ahead, start a new game. We're gonna play on normal. And of course it fades in there, that's really good. I apologize for the late start, folks. I had a phone call I needed to attend to real quick.
Don't forget, some things mustn't be forgotten. The shadow hunting me I must hurry. My name is Daniel. I live in London at Mayfair. What have I done? This is crazy. Don't forget. Don't forget. I must stop him. Focus. My name is... I am Daniel.
Right. Don't you just love when you wake up in a creepy looking castle with blood all over the floor and no memory of how you got here in the first place? Follow the liquid trail to its source. So yeah, like a lot of horror games at the time, horror games in general, I need to stop saying at the time. Like, we are, I think, almost 2 decades out from Sweet Home now. Anyway, like most horror games, Amnesia mostly gets its story across through notes, a lot of which were left behind by Daniel himself. And the less I say about that right now, the better, because like I want to let the story unfold as it would play. But it really does work here. Okay, so it said follow the trail. Alright, so we always start with the controls, and the controls to Amnesia are your basic FPS controls. So you have mouse look for your viewpoints, and you move with the WSD keys. Movement does feel a little sluggish right here, but after all, we just woke up and now I'm stumbling a little bit. The way the camera is swaying right now, I'm sure that's going to give some people some motion sickness, but thankfully I don't have that problem. Which is really good for me since I enjoy playing VR games without the teleport feature on. And you know what? How cool would this game be in VR? Why hasn't that happened yet? That tinderbox, very important. Okay. So the way you interact with certain objects is kind of weird. So rather than just clicking it and the object moving, you instead have to click with the mouse, and then you control it by moving the mouse itself, almost like you're grabbing hold of the door and moving it that way. Now, I get the idea behind that, but it honestly feels gimmicky to me. Unless, like, again, you're playing a virtual reality game where you physically have to open that stuff out. There's just no purpose to that. Just open it up, and whatever's in there you automatically get. Better for pacing anyway. I hear footsteps. It's a really good sound design too. Are you guys hearing all that? It's pretty creepy. Oh, that's weird. Whoa, what's going on? Alright, dude. Daniel must have had one too many drinks there. Oh, maybe that's just what's going on. I'm blackout drunk right now, and I can't even remember what happened. How'd I end up here? Well, this creepy self-opening door looks friendly, so I'll go in there. I gotta find something to eat. Okay, I'm out. Okay, so that brings us to one of the bigger gameplay mechanics of Amnesia, and that's the sanity system. So Daniel, the character you're playing as, is naturally afraid of the dark. So when he's in the darkness, he starts to go insane, and if your sanity gets too low, a lot of strange stuff starts to happen. He'll like your vision will distort, he'll move back and forth, you'll hear weird sounds, and if there's a monster nearby, that'll bring the monster to you. So you want to keep your sanity up, which basically means you have to avoid the darkness if you can. Which I think is an interesting concept, though. I find it a little silly that they call it sanity, because would you really go insane within the span of a couple of seconds? I don't know. I should have asked a friend of mine who's a psychologist about that. But I don't think that's how it works. I think it would have been more effective if they referred to it as your character's anxiety. Like the situation is just weighing on him and his body is just, quitting on him. Wouldn't that be... I feel like I could say something that's offensive to people who suffer from anxiety, so I'm not going to say anymore. Oh yeah, your sanity also goes bad on you if you witness unsettling stuff, like, doors opening on their own, because that's creepy. I think. I don't think it's that creepy. That is one hell of a draft. Now we got the lantern. While we're on the subject of that, the presentation here actually is really good for an independent game. I mean, look at this detail, and the lighting effects here are fantastic. I'm not a big fan of Amnesia, as you can probably tell, but even I have to admit that Frictional really is a talented team of developers. And I'm glad they're starting to get more into gameplay as well. Again, if you haven't played The Bunker yet, be sure to check that out. That's a great survival horror game. You do want to try to ration you want to try your best to ration your oil, though, because you only have so much of it. Tinder boxes are another way you can fight the darkness, too. You can light candles, and that'll provide you some light.
19th of August, 1839. I wish I could ask how much you remember. I don't know if there'll be anything left after I consume this drink.
I'll spend some
Don't
heavy-duty
be
alcohol.
afraid, Daniel. I can't tell you why, but know this. I choose to forget. Try to find comfort and strength in that fact. There is a purpose.
Right.
You are my final effort to put things right.
Ignorance is
God
bliss.
willing, the name Alexander of Brandenburg still invokes bitter anger in you. If
It
not,
doesn't.
this will sound horrible. Go to the inner sanctum, find Alexander, and kill him. His body is old and weak, and yours, young and strong. He will be no match for you. One last thing. A shadow is following you. It's a living nightmare, breaking down reality. I have tried everything, and there is no way to fight back. You need to escape it as long as you can. Redeem us both, Daniel. Descend into the darkness where Alexander waits and murder him.
I wonder
Your
if they
former self, Daniel.
I wonder if they wrote that line and then chose the subtitle from that. Okay, so in regards to a narrative hook, that actually is really good. But I also kind of feel like it's sort of hindered by that opening monologue as well. I think it would have been more effective if you just start the game and immediately you're in the castle with no idea of where to go aside from a memento telling you your name and telling you to follow that trail of liquid. And something else that I sort of had to suspend my disbelief on is that the goal of the game is to kill someone, but like the whole mission statement of Amnesia: The Dark Descent is that you aren't supposed to attack people. And I know it says that there's a shadow chasing you, there's nothing you can do to fight it. And with all the crazy stuff that's going on, and like there's some stuff, it's very clear you won't be able to fight back against it. But when you have physical monsters coming at you, like you have it in you to go murder an old man, but you can't even throw a punch at these things as they're killing you. What do you do when they corner you? Do you just do this? So, yeah, that kind of takes you out of the experience. And I know a lot of people are saying that's not the point. That's not the point of the game. And I understand that. But this is just kind of my personal preference when it comes to horror games. I just don't like this style of play. And I feel like most of the issues with taking combat out of the equation, I've already demonstrated with Clock Tower. Yeah, what Amnesia is doing isn't even original in the slightest. Other games have tried it, and while Clock Tower certainly has its fans, there's a reason it was never as popular as Resident Evil. But anyway, I'm done with my rant there, so let's keep going. Okay, let's see here. Ooh, a lever. Another aspect of the sanity system is, in order to replenish it, you either gotta stay in the light or complete objectives that makes you feel a little bit better. I guess you could say you're comforting Daniel in that sense. And fair, everyone needs a little bit of a breather. I remember needing a breather when I was playing System Shock.
Alexander, is it inside the castle?
In a manner of speaking. Come, bring the lamp. You've been to the refinery, have you not?
I don't believe I have. Is it connected to the... what did you call it?
The inner sanctum. My most precious chamber, Daniel. And it lies well beyond the refinery. In fact, it lies beneath the very stone of Brennenburg.
So, as you come across stuff of note, Daniel will recall stuff, which, again, is in service of the storytelling. Little known fact about Amnesia, it's not like it's portrayed in a lot of media. It's not a permanent condition that people have to suffer through for a long time. The memory does come back after a while, especially if you have stuff that's jogging your memory. So it's an interesting way to get the story across. But that's the way I need to go. I can't go that way, so we're just going to turn around and see what else we can find. Typical horror structure. Resident Evil, Silent Hill, even System Shock. All the games are like that. Check the chest. Got some lamp oil, got some tinder boxes. Yeah, those are some big cockroaches. Hissing at me too. Now see, stuff like that, that's effective enough, because it tells me there's something going on here. I think it would have been more effective for what they were trying to do if they didn't actually have any monsters in the game. And they just focused on the castle itself, just kind of, seeming like it's alive and screwing with you. Man, I don't need to go to the wine cellar anyway. I've had enough to drink tonight. Why That's why Daniel can't remember anything. To the lab! I'm gonna use the tinderbox here. Just to kind of mark where I've been. See, like, that on its own is creepy enough. I don't like this game, but I do understand why some people would find it scary. I'm just not one of those people. What am I doing on sanity? I do like when you... This is how you check your sanity right here. You hover over this brain right here. And I like the little tidbits you get regarding how Daniel is doing. If your sanity is rock bottom, all you get are just, like, silence thoughts, which I've always found really funny. It's hilariously effective. Ah. I don't know why the oil needs to be a separate item. Actually, I do understand. So what do we got here? The lack of a chimney to properly vent the fumes from my most recent experiments has taken a toll on many of my less stable ingredients in storage. Some seem unaffected, but many are strained by the fumes and will be difficult to salvage. I shall do what I can to move them to the wine cellar. So I do need to get it into the wine cellar.
There should be more coop rats. Let me see.
Wait,
And
why?
one part aquafortis.
While we're on the subject of that, this game has some really good voice acting too. For such a small studio, Frictional always managed to get some really good voice talent for their games. Chemistry pod, I think I need that. This is my third attempt to produce the artificial vital. The former compounds lack the potency I need, but I sense I'm close. Calamine and arpiment are a given, and the culprit binds them well. This time I will attempt Aqua Riga instead of Aqua Fortis, and hope that it will produce an even solution. The experiment was unsuccessful. The solution is highly acid. Shouldn't that be acidic? And proves impractical to put any use except for as a degenerate. Organic tissue reacts especially well into solution and should be handled with the greatest of care. I might be able to use the recipe, but I'm losing hope that I'll find the alchemic solution to my predicament. Okay, so we need to make this acid. Okay. Use a tinderbot so I can save some of my oil. What's this? One day I will return. If it wasn't for the thought of you, my love, I wouldn't be able to go on. When I found myself doing terrible things, I take comfort in you. As long as I'm able to think of you and a long life together, I know I'm better than the others. I weep for them. They lust for power without restraint, where I only crave for fair judgment and a safe return. I feel like there's a lot of contradicting statements in that, but whatever. Okay, so our first objective is clear. We gotta make this acid, so we need to get into the wine cellar. Up we go. It's also a little fuzzy what constitutes darkness versus being in the light. Wish they had like a light meter like in the Thief games. What's this now? That was probably my imagination. I mean, my character was blackout drunk. I mean, I'm sure some lady said that to him. I have a feeling Daniel does some pretty messed up things when he's hammered. The archives.
May 1839. The unflinching African sun has continued to plague our expedition, making it impossible to dig until dusk. How Professor Herbert managed to find the location in these vast plains of nothingness remains a mystery to me. When I asked him about the tomb again, he told me about the legend of Tin Hanan, the mother of us all. An interesting story in its own right, but I can't help feeling there's more. Later that evening, we uncovered a passage beneath the dunes leading to a sand-covered stone structure. The professor was confident it was the tomb we sought and ordered the others to clear the way late into the dark, cold night. Tomorrow, I shall lead the men into the ancient structure, hoping to reach the burial chamber. No matter what the professor is keeping from me, the dig should yield something interesting to take back to London and the British Museum.
Right, okay. Alright, is there anything of interest in here? Like, it's cool you can interact with all that, but ultimately pointless, I would say. Doesn't look like there's anything I'm interested in here. I just noticed this door is thrown off the hinges too. That's a little concerning. This place is actually rather nice. Decent view. Not a fan of the decor though. Looks like some old Renaissance paintings. Not really my cup of tea. Not sure what that was about. And this place is falling apart. Stop pissing at me. I can't play the piano. It's like a chest full of maps. Not sure what purpose that serves, but whatever.
Much of the castle is old and hasn't been tended to for centuries. When the shadow arrives, it won't take long until things start falling apart.
We're just buying time anyway. Let's do what we can.
There isn't much to be done about the wars. We should reinforce weak structures. The ground will tremble and there's a risk everything will cave in on us, especially downstairs. Here, and there. Let's get the servants working on it.
If you say so. Well, that certainly doesn't sound good.
"17th of May, 1839. My hands tremble as I write. I feel a need to document my tribulation, for I fear that my memory will fail me if I linger. Today, I
Foreshadowing.
took some men and ventured into the dark, ancient passage we uncovered. Our torches burned faintly in the murky air as we slowly made our way underground. The men were superstitious and fearful. They argued loudly, and I felt their strange language getting to me. I mustered my strength and yelled at them to continue down the slopes and broken steps. The crudely carved passage confused me. It looked much older than the 4th century structure we had expected. The twisting path emerged into a great antechamber. The walls were lined with statues unlike any I'd ever seen. Despite their unearthly quality, I felt a strange familiarity toward them, which haunts me still. At the far end of the chamber, a great slab of stone sealed off whatever lay ahead. I gave the order to raise it, and as I pushed through the narrow space, the heavy stone suddenly dropped, sealing me inside. I was trapped.
Neato. Alright, let's go see what that loud sound was. Ah. Well, I'll do it. Okay. Well, what's over here? Fragile, but not breakable by hand. Alright then. Okay, so I'm strong enough to break down a stone wall, but I'm not strong enough to fend off some monsters. Jeez.
You have to be swift when you activate the first one. You hear that? If it stops, you'll have to start over.
Isn't all this a bit excessive?
You can
Yes,
never be
yes,
too
it is.
careful, Daniel.
Alright, so I've got a nice little puzzle right here. Though I think it's pretty obviously what you're supposed to do here, considering these books stand out so much. Let's see. Then again, I might just be talking out my ass. There we go. Not even going to try to pronounce that name. Brennenburg Castle, 1801. Another region rich with lore is, again, not even going to try to pronounce that. Deep within the East Prussian woods, for a century there have been stories surrounding the hamlet and its neighbor, Castle Brennenburg. The quiet forest-clad mountains, dressed with skated lakes, is as picturesque as it can be, albeit the area is haunted with dark. Ask any local, and you will hear proof of widespread superstition. All travelers should indulge in themselves in such conversation, since it will certainly serve as inciting entertainment. All of them have their twist on the tales, but there are some motifs that keep reappearing. The Gatherers. Honestly, I don't even feel like reading that. Oh yeah, I need to go this way. Which way did I need to go? Oh. Ooh, a key. Eh? Yeah, I'm too lazy to read that too. That is one of the problems with that method of storytelling, though. Unless it's really engaging, I'm likely to not want to read it, especially if it does get real wordy. In this case, I think it would have been more effective if it was all narrated. Because I'm sure I'm missing some juicy tidbits in there, but I just don't really care. Right, let's see what made that sound. Back here. Nope. Easy there, Daniel. It's just a book. Always sounds like there's footsteps in the behind you, which can be pretty creepy, I suppose. Nothing there. Oh no. Hey buddy, can you show me the way out? Huh. Where'd he go? I don't know. Okay, so I don't know if I'm going to get into any enemy encounters tonight because, you know, I only play for an hour because, again, I do want to encourage people to play this game themselves. Even though everyone just watches someone else play this game, I digress. But how enemy encounters work in this game, essentially what happens is you see an enemy and your only recourse is to run away. Though, really, you want to avoid being seen at all, because once a monster sees you, it's very hard to get away from it, and most people just say that you're done so at that point. So, because of that, you would think stealth would be the option, but Amnesia isn't really a stealth game either, and for two main reasons. The first reason is you can't look at the monsters, because looking at the monsters causes your sanity to drop. And if your sanity drops, that means Daniel will start freaking out, making noises, and that's going to bring the monster to you. So you don't want that to happen. And the second reason is that you can't use light sources, because that's essentially, you know, saying, hey, here I am to the monsters. So, but you don't want to stay in the darkness, because if you stay in the darkness, then your sanity is going to drop, and if your sanity drops, the monster's going to come to you. So, yeah, dealing with the monsters is kind of a pain, and because of that, they more or less become a nuisance when you have to deal with them, just like Scissor Man does in the Clock Tower games. And, yeah, it just wasn't thought out too well. I mean, if you're not supposed to fight these monsters, how about at least have some stealth mechanics in there? Like I said, have a gem in there to tell you how hidden you are, so that when the monsters come at you, you can at least hide from them. But then that would be counterintuitive to the sanity system, because that's goes against how the game is supposed to work. Or here's a better idea. How about instead of the monsters actually being there, have them be a result of the sanity? Have them be hallucinations that, freak out the player, but can't actually hurt you. But, kind of like in Eternal Darkness, if you ever played that. Though they probably couldn't have done something like that because the sanity system in Eternal Darkness was weirdly patented by Nintendo, so they couldn't have done something like that. If it was too similar, Nintendo probably could have sued, which would essentially have been a death sentence for a small studio like Fractional. By the way, that patent has expired, so if any game developers are watching this, unlikely, keep that in mind. You can do something like that. But yeah, not a big fan of the enemy encounters here. Really, not being able to fight them, I feel like it does more harm than good because, resource management is a thing in this game, as you can see. So you have to manage your oil, you have to manage your sanity, you have to manage your tinder boxes, and stuff like, I guess, health? I can't remember if there are health items in this game, I don't really know. But not being able to manage your means to fend off the creatures, that kind of takes away from that because that's another layer to the survival horror. It's not the fact that you can fight off the monsters that prevents it from being scary. It's the fact that with a lot of the action games that were coming out this time, it's that you had too much ammo, you had fun fighting the monsters, and there was always enough ammo on hand to deal with them. It wasn't like in the original Resident Evil games where you were constantly cautious of how much ammo you were flinging at your enemies because you never knew if you were going to need that ammo for a more dire encounter. Again, the bosses would come out of nowhere. So yeah, I understand the thought process with Amnesia taking out your ability to fight back, but I don't think it was a good one. And I think that Frictional agreed because they have backpedaled that on you big time and made a more proper survival horror with the bunker, which is, as I said, much better than the Dark Descent, if you ask me. See, stuff like that's pretty freaky. I can't tell if I'm in the darkness or not right now. Alright, heading down into the wine cellar, get myself a little drink. That'll calm my nerves. Hey, Daniel. Alright. Alright, made it into the wine cellar, so we're at least on the right path.
Where did the Baron go?
Who cares? He left us enough wine to last us a lifetime. Or at least until tomorrow.
That was one of the items I needed, right? I got a nice buzzsaw here. I could craft myself an axe if I had some duct tape. Ooh, blood. Hello. Up the darn tinderbox. I got some hammers right here. I could use that to fend off the monsters. Doesn't look like there's anything of great importance in here. Alright, so I have a place I can go to fill up my lantern if I need it. It's really good because it's really dark down here. Hello? Can't see anything.
What's happening? Oh, it feels like my chest is going to burst. Oh.
My God! Wilhelm, do something!
Accept it. We're not getting out of here.
How can you say that? Alexander, you piece of shit! Let us out of here!
Charming. Again, don't feel like reading that. Is that everything I need? Or some places I haven't checked yet. Thing of interest this way. Is there an enemy nearby? Oh, there is an enemy nearby. I'm just gonna stay right here. Yeah, can you guys hear that one sound? A lot of people seem to agree that it's Daniel grinding his teeth, but the developers have always stated that's not the case. I like to think it is true, because that is a fun idea.
Closer, somehow.
Let's see. Daniel's chemical relocation. Alright, so sentence not closed. So that's everything, isn't it? Yeah, I think it is. So I think I need to head back to the laboratory now. To the lab. I think I'll go fill up my lantern before I leave, though. I'm gonna play a little bit longer tonight since I was late. honestly, I am having fun playing this, but I've played this game start to finish before, and I know this feeling doesn't last. After a while, you're just kind of going through the motions. They do mix it up every now and then. For example, there's a part where you're making your way through a flooded portion of the castle, and you have to stay out of the water because there's an invisible monster in there. But stuff like that is few and far between, and the monsters aren't really present enough, and to be honest, aren't really that threatening to begin with. So it's sort of a moot point. Also, something else that'll probably make the monsters less threatening. So the game is constantly emphasizing keeping your sanity up. And because of that, a common thing people will tell you is that if your sanity gets too low, you'll eventually die. And this is just blatant misinformation because sanity isn't what kills you, it's the sanity bringing the monsters to you that kills you. And this is something that Frictional Games has actually commented on because they have said that in the intro I talked about at the start of the video, like, it emphasizes keeping your sanity up and tells you all the bad stuff that'll happen if it gets too low. But they never actually state that it will kill you. They never tell you what will happen if it does get too low. And that's actually really clever because they kind of knew that gamers would fill in that blank themselves. And as a result, everyone is afraid for their sanity to get too low as a result. It's actually kind of funny that they did that. They're sort of screwing with the players, and that is kind of fun. But yeah, it's the monsters that'll kill you, not the sanity. And even if the monsters do kill you, as the monsters kill you, they start to disappear. So even if you can't get around the monsters, you can still finish the game, which I think is kind of cheap and sort of plays into how the system is designed. It's, you know, not really meant to challenge players. Or maybe it's just that the system wasn't very good to begin with. I'm more just enjoying the atmosphere of the game more than anything. Pick it up. Dude, relax. Alright, let's do this. Oh, that goes right there. Let's see. Oh yeah, you can peek around corners too. Oh, I need 4 chemicals? Well, I guess I'm going back to the cellar. That's kinda lame. There are only 3 in that journal, unless I misread that. Well, I'm not going back that way. That's not good. I think I might have made a mistake here.
That taste, that fragrance, Damascus rose.
must have missed something in the wine cellar. Wonder if that means I soft-locked the game. I've only ever played this once before, and that was a long time ago, so I'm not really sure, really. Oh, wait. Oh, that's a medical thing. Hey, what do we have here? Oh, it's just another tender box. Surely there's a way out of here. Ah, worth a try. It's those darn cockroaches again. Just to get to hard. Oh. Oh yeah. Now I remember. Alright, 3 more minutes and then we're gonna call it. I'm about to run out of lantern oil. Alright, let's see here. And now it is dark. And that thing is out of lantern oil, so I'm probably screwed here. You can see my sanity going there a little bit. And Daniel really hates the darkness, that's for sure. Ah, there's what I'm looking for. Chill out, dude. You're fine. Alright, that's where I'm going to call it for the night, so... As I said, this isn't the first time I played Amnesia. It has been a long time since I did originally complete it. And I do have to say, it is still fun to play. Like, the atmosphere in the game is really good, and actually having to manage your resources in order to fend off the darkness, I mean, that works well enough. There is enough of a compelling gameplay loop here that it at least keeps you stimulated as you're walking around this castle, solving puzzles, finishing inventory puzzles, and all that stuff. But for me, it's just never going to be as effective as other horror games I've played. Like, and it really does come down to the fact that you do not have any means of defense in this game. And it's not the fact that I don't like being helpless. It's just the fact that having the ability to fight back adds another layer to the horror, as I've probably already explained tonight, because when you encounter an enemy in Resident Evil, Silent Hill, or Fatal Frame, well, not Fatal Frame, because you have no choice but to fight in that game, you run the numbers in your head. Do I want to use my resources to kill this enemy right now, or do I want to see if I can get by him before actually using my resources, for fear that there could be something worse beyond this enemy? And that makes for a good horror experience. But this, when I see an enemy, I just gotta run and hide, or just try to avoid it, or as you saw earlier, just turn around and hope it goes away. And I get it, some people are gonna find that scary, and I do not. And as always, everything I say on this stream is my own opinion. Though I feel like I have a good idea as to what makes a game good versus bad, it is still my own idea based on what I have played in my time. And Amnesia just doesn't do it for me. If you're into this sort of thing though, definitely check it out. It's especially fun to play with friends, and I guess if you have a YouTube stream. But yeah, really the reason I wanted to play it because it's just emblematic of what a lot of people thought a horror game needed to be at the time. And I'm so glad we are beyond that. After Resident Evil 7 came out, proper survival horror came back, and then it was perfected with Resident Evil 2. I'm a little concerned that they're sort of leaning back into the action style that they have with Resident Evil 4 with the Resident Evil 4 remake, which for the record I didn't like, and Resident Evil 3 remake. And now there's talk of a Resident Evil 5 remake now? No, there's no reason for that. Let's just have some original Resident Evil games again. Continue on with Resident Evil 9. Let's get some more Silent Hill in there. Bring back Dino Crisis, a Fatal Frame. And it's some original IPs too. I mean, people really do have fun being scared. That's why so many people have been able to make a living on YouTube, because people just love watching other people react to this stuff if they're too scared to play it themselves. But yeah, Amnesia, it's fine, but it's just not my favorite. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's content. I'm gonna exit out of this game. If you enjoyed watching me play or talk about games, I do these videos every week, usually at 8 o'clock. We're gonna be finishing off our History of Horror series next week. Though the last game I'm gonna play isn't really important to the history of horror. I think I've covered all the major games I wanted to this year. Though there is one last game I do want to play before the year is up, before October is up, And if you're paying attention to what's due out to come in theaters here soon, you could probably put together what I'm going to play next week. And it's probably not going to be a lot of fun for me to play, but I'll definitely get some good reactions for the live stream. Anyway, I hope you guys have a good work week, and take care.